Once upon a time, in a town of Ziba, there lived a young couple named Zita and Joe. They met during their university days, where Zita's charm and charisma quickly won Joe's heart. She was a dedicated student, full of ambition, while he was a free spirit, often floating from one idea to the next. After graduation, they married to build a life together. As the years rolled by, their relationship began to grow. Zita, with her unwavering work ethics, found a job at a local design firm, pouring herself into her work, while Joe struggled to find a little job. Instead of being the supportive partner, he became increasingly dependent on Zita's income. He often spending his days dreaming of big ventures. Zita worked long hours, often bringing home projects that require her attention late into the night. Joe, on the other hand, spent his time chasing fleeting ideas, starting a business here and there, and investing in a scheme that have never materialized. The financial strength began to show, and instead of sharing it with his wife, Joe distanced himself, seeking solace in friends and distraction. He said, "Zita, I promise I'll make it big one day." This is what Joe often said to his wife, confidence masking his fear. But as the months went on, those promises felt more like empty words. One day, Zita called her husband Joe and said to him, "Joe, we need to talk." And he said, "All right, you can go on." For over many years now in this family, I'm being the one taking care of this home, paying house rents, paying children's school fees, and also feeding them. It has begun to affect me both emotionally and physically. I need your financial help in this house. Sounding so exhausting. I can't continue to do this alone. And Joe replied to his wife and said, "You can see that I don't have tangible job for now to assist. When I get job, I will start to help in the house," sounding so unbothered. Zita continued to cater for her children and husband to the extent she started looking so old. Everyone in their neighborhood started talking, while her husband looked more younger than her. Zita loved her husband Joe so much. She believed that she can take care of her husband and children. Zita worked from morning to night without resting. She was not taking good care of herself, while her husband Joe dressed very well and always looking good and neat. One day, a family member named Fred came to tell Zita that there was available land that came out in the center of the town. Immediately, Zita got interested and decided to follow Fred to see the land. After seeing the land, in the night, Zita told her husband about the land that she would want them to acquire. Immediately, Joe convinced Zita to write their names as Mr. and Mrs. on the land documents. Zita, being in love, accepted the whole advice from her husband. But unfortunately for her, that Joe had interior motive to sell the land in future. Weeks later, Zita acquired the land with her husband's name were written on the document as Mr. and Mrs. Joe. Zita decided to invest in the land, believing it could serve as a foundation for their future. Years later, the land began to appreciate. It's worth up to 100 million. Zita was so excited about her land. Meanwhile, Joe was not happy. He doesn't appreciate his wife. He complained in everything. His wife was so responsible for his children's school fees and feeding. Joe began spending more time with a new group of friends who lived lavishly and boasted about their own businesses. Explored among them was a young lady named Cindy, who was everything Joe desired. A sharp-looking entrepreneur who exuded confidence and ambition. Joe was connected to their business. He started doing business with them. He returned home late. One day, Zita noticed the scent of perfume lingering on his shirt, and she asked, Joe, where have you been? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Immediately, Joe said, Zita, I'm very busy now. I have business and I engage with my business. Besides, I have business that I'm running on. Please, Zita, you are not just my level anymore. Zita got shocked by his husband's response towards her. The next day, Joe left the house and did not come back that day. He moved around the town with Sidi, lavishing on her, shopping and spending time with her. Joe told his new girlfriend, Cindy, that his wife bought a land in a very nice location and the land has appreciated very well. And immediately Cindy asked him, what is the name on the document? And Joe said, I made her to write Mr. and Mrs. Joe. Immediately Cindy advised him to sell the land in order to use the money to acquire another property elsewhere. Joe agreed with what Cindy told him. However, Joe planned on how to get the documents from his wife Zita. The next day, he came back to their house. Fortunately for him, he didn't meet Zita. He went straight to the bedroom and opened the wardrobe and searched for the document, and when he got it, he left immediately. The next day, he met Cindy and showed her the document, and Cindy was so happy and excited. That evening, they got a buyer who saw the land and priced it 100 million, and immediately Joe sold out the land. The next month, he proposed to Cindy and planned the most expensive wedding in town. Their wedding was talk of the town. There was enough food, meat, chicken, and different types of drinks. After their wedding, Cindy got pregnant. Months later, she gave birth to a bouncing baby girl. Joe lavished her with a lot of gifts, including car. As this was going on, Zita was not aware that her husband had sold the only property she acquired in her entire life. One day, a family friend of Zita and Joe named Jane, on hearing this, got angry on what Joe did to his wife. She traveled to see her friend Zita in order to know the sudden separation that made her husband so rich and to the extent of getting married to another woman who he lavished too much money on. On getting to their house, she met her children and asked them after their mom, and immediately Zita, on hearing her voice, she came out to welcome her. She said to her, welcome my friend, longest time, you have totally forgotten me. And Jane said to her, my friend, honestly, I did not forget you, it was my job. I'm so busy these days in the office. They sat down in the sitting room and began to gist. How is your husband, Zita? I didn't see him around. And Zita opened her mouth and began to tell her friends how her husband left the house since months ago without coming back. Said Jane. You mean that you don't know his whereabouts up till now? Honestly, I don't know, said Zita. Well, someone close to me told me that your husband got married to a new young girl in town and they are living together. He also went as far to buy car and furnish duplex for themselves. And I now ask myself, how your husband that doesn't work when you guys were living together? What happened? How did this happen? How did he make such money? My dear Jane, firstly, when he was here, he started going out with friends, and from there, they connected him to a business. And the next thing he told me that I'm no longer his level. He packed his things and left. My sister, I cry so much, but what will I do? I am here with my children, working hard, have learnt my lesson. He doesn't appreciate me upon what I did for him for years. He just used me and got married to another person, to the extent of taking responsibility, something that he hardly done when he was here with us. Man, Jen said. My friend, do you see why it's not good to take care of a grown-up man as a husband? He's your husband, but you went and carried all the responsibility. And now he has gotten money. He would like to practice it with another woman. Yes, he has started taking up his responsibility. Men are born to chase and take care of their wife and children, and not the other way around. My dear sister, please, let's talk about another thing. It's a lesson to all women outside there. How far about your land? The one you acquired years back. You know that place have appreciated. People that have lands in that location are selling in millions of naira. Have you checked yours? Since then, immediately Zita ran into her room to bring out her documents, but surprisingly to her, she could not find the documents, and she shouted, "Oh, Jane, it's like I can't find documents anymore." As she was crying and shedding tears, Jane called. "It's like your husband have sold out that land. Maybe use it and acquire another property," Zita shouted on top of her voice. Immediately, they went to see the land. As she got there, she noticed that another person had started building house on the land, and she confronted the contractor that was in charge of the building. And the contractor told her that the land was sold to his boss by one Mr. Joe, and Zita shouted. However, Star and Jen got home that day, and Jen started asking her the name on the land document, and Zita said Mr. and Mrs. Joe, and Jen said that was the reason he sold the land. You see, you would have written your name boldly on the document. But you don't know that anybody can answer Mr. and Mrs., said Jen. And that was how Zita was left with nothing except her children. Meanwhile, Joe was rich, living with his new wife in their new mansion. Guys, I hope that you find this story interesting. What moral lesson do you learn from this story? What Joe did to his first wife Zita, was it a good one? Zita using her husband's name on the documents, was it a good one? Guys, let me see your opinion on the comment section. Please kindly subscribe to my channel at African Tales by Ifenkili. Like and share with family and friends. Turn on your notification button and stay tuned for more interesting and mind-blowing stories coming your way next time. Guys, remain blessed. Bye.